Who remembers WCW? I know I do. Monday Nitro, Saturday Night, Halloween Havoc, Starrcade, what was not to love? How about what happened to the whole thing there at the end? A lot of horrible ideas, bad booking, and incompetent management really seen WCW freefall there at the end. What's truly tragic is the delegitimizing of its highest prize, the WCW World title. What started in 1992, but can be traced back much further, found its way into the hands of different individuals who, either admittedly or not, were not best positioned to carry that title. I'm Walt, the most gangsta nerd on YouTube, and I got the worst WCW World Champions of all time. Number 8, Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is a legend of professional wrestling. It's unfortunate that he's considered one of the worst champions for both WCW and the WWE. Case in point, while Big Sexy was the on-screen commissioner of WCW, he would strip Sid Vicious of his recently gained world title and award it to himself. Then later on that same night, lose the title back to Sid. Why? Who knows? This is actually the only thing that could have been considered worse than his previous genius move of breaking the streak and then the finger point of doom. It's really reflective of WCW there at the end. Number 7, Randy Savage. Look, it's not to be disrespectful. Randy Savage is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. But at Bash at the Beach 1999, Randy Savage would win the WCW World title by pinning Kevin Nash. Why is this bad? Because it was a tag team match. Randy Savage and Sid Vicious versus Kevin Nash and Sting, with an odd stipulation. Should Kevin Nash be pinned, whoever pinned him would become champion. Why? I'm sure there was a good reason. And then he would hold it for one day. A perfect example of lazy booking. Number 6, Sid Vicious. I personally love Sid Vicious. I'm seriously not trying to pick on him. More, I hope I'm assassinating the booking of this time period. But in 2000, after the departure of Chris Benoit, the WCW title was vacated. Good work, WCW. Sid Vicious and Kevin Nash would both challenge for the title, leading to Commissioner Kevin Nash stipulating that it would be Kevin Nash and Ron Harris versus Sid, and Sid would have to defeat Kevin Nash to get the title, which he did. Hooray! However, just like before mentioned, Kevin Nash would then strip the title off Sid and then lose it back to him. So technically Sid's a multiple-time world champion and in only 1 week. Number 5, The Giant. Years ago, before Paul White taught me how to annoy anyone, anywhere, at any time with the greatest intro music of all time, yes, I'm gonna sing it. Well, it's the Big Show. He was a younger and scarier Giant. The Giant burst into WCW with a huge push, beating Hogan out of the gates, even though it was a DQ, and you know, all that great stuff, except he won the world title in his first match, and he won it by DQ. He would hold it for 1 week, then was stripped because he won it by DQ. Could such a prestigious reign really be remembered any other way? Number 4, Diamond Dallas Page. DDP was a major player during the Monday Night Wars. He was a big part of the NWO invasion angle and was a fan favorite through and through. The only thing that really seemed to hold him back are his world title reigns. After finally winning his first world title, he would hold it for a glorious 2 weeks, managing to burn out quick before losing it to Sting, only to win it back later that same night. Really, what is with WCW's thinking at this time? And then 1 year later, DDP will win the title again before dropping it to, well, number 3, Jeff Jarrett. Being that Double J was actually born and raised in professional wrestling, his father being the legendary Memphis promoter Jerry Jarrett, his 4 title reigns that lasted altogether less than 2 months is bewildering to say the least. But to make things worse, his involvement in the New Blood storyline, the David Arquette controversy, and the very painful to watch end of WCW, any chances he really had of being a legitimate and memorable champion were shot before they ever really took off. Number 2, David Arquette. Okay, he didn't actually beat Diamond Dallas Page, and the whole story played out, well... But that does not change the fact that it happened. The WCW World Heavyweight Championship, whose lineage could be traced back legitimately through the National Wrestling Alliance, back through the unification of the National Wrestling Alliance and National Wrestling Association, and Lou Thesz, all the way back to George Hackenschmidt in 1905, that's for real by the way, look it up, the world title was held by an actor. It was an outrage. Number 1, Vince Russo. Do you have any idea how hard it's been not to say this guy's name all the way through this list? Seriously, if you didn't feel his presence all the way through it, you may want to improve your pro wrestling history. Vince Russo's reputation alone speaks volumes by itself. Everyone from Eric Bischoff to Jim Cornette to Brian Zane have buried this man as one of, if not the worst influence on professional wrestling ever. And we haven't even touched his decision to book himself as world champion. In what could have been a brilliant finish to a steel cage match, had it involved a wrestler, Vince Russo would be inadvertently speared out of the cage before Booker T could escape, and bang, win by technicality. This was met with backlash immediately. Something that could be said is that Vince knew to vacate the title because he's not a wrestler. But guess who would regain the title right after? Booker T. A lot of things really didn't make sense at the end of WCW. And that's the list. You know I'm right. But do you really want to try and argue with me? Try it in the comments. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and I'll be seeing you soon enough.